Go.
Right, first thing is, you've got to start off with dummies that are visual. And the dog's got to see them put down. Okay, the order of you putting them down really isn't relevant, but the most likely is you're going to put the furthest one down away first. So I would be doing this. Throwing the retrieve up so the dog definitely draws its attention to it, then stand it up so it's a visual stimulus. Ideally the ground would like to have a slight fall away on it, and the reason I'd have a fall away is so when the dog comes up and picks the first one, it can see the second one because it's going slightly uphill, so that it will be in its eye line. So distance wise, my starting point roughly would be 15 yards. Same thing again. Set that up. The thing that's the wrong way round here, which isn't relevant when you look at it on a video, is the wind now is coming off of that one onto that one. It wants to be the reverse, but for the purposes of showing you physically how I set it up, it's the other way round. So the wind will be coming from the first dummy I put down onto the second one. So when we go back to there, we line the dog up. There's two things that we've guaranteed. The dog has seen two dummies put down, and both dummies will remain in the dog's eye line. When we send from whatever distance you want to send for the first dummy, we know he'll see the first dummy first because it's visual, but we also know when he gets to here that he will see that one as well, and that's with having that very slight gradient. So we're ensuring he can see, and because the wind, not now, but will be coming from that dummy onto this one, we're also ensuring that there's a scent stimulus as well. So he comes into this one, he picks that. At that point, he's got a decision whether he turns to go back that way, or whether, because he can remember, he can see and he can smell that one, whether he continues that way. Now the reason roughly for the 15 yards is that distance is your safety net. That gives you the time to be able to jump in and intervene and stop the dog swapping. So he picks that one and he starts going towards that. The first thing I do is I use my chastisement tone that I know the dog respects. That's already been grounded. That when I go, I know that dog will go, shit, what? So I use my chastisement tone. So let's say the dog's picked that from there, and chastisement tones hit him, and he ends up turning and going, oh, what, here? At that point, I don't do anything. I wait for him to make a decision. If he continues that way, he gets another chastisement tone, and he stops and he looks. So remember, the foundation is I must know that that chastisement tone works. Aaron laughs. If he gets here on the first chastisement tone or the second chastisement tone and stops, and then he makes, as soon as he makes a decision to come towards me, I flip it to praise. So as soon as he gets here, he's running that way. Oh, what? Oh, come back towards you. As soon as he's took that first step back towards you, good lad, good lad. I haven't given him the answer, he's found the answer. If he continues to go that way, he continues to get a punishment tone. If he ends up getting too close to that, obviously if he keeps making the same mistake, you're then that'll be the only time where you'd say, come here, come here. What are the what ifs? The what ifs are, and this generally comes if your timing is bad, he picks this, and when you chastise him, he drops it. Now if that happens, it's generally because you've got your timing wrong. If you are sure and have allowed him to commit to what he wants to do, which in this case is the wrong thing going that way, if your chastisement comes in significantly after he's gone that way, he won't connect it with the fact that he's picked the dummy, because there's a gap in it. You've let him pick it and you've let him commit whichever way he's going to go. So, as we talked about in other areas, that's why we mustn't praise for picking the dummy, because we don't know what's immediately going to happen next. So also, when he picks the dummy and he starts to make the direction to come back to you, the praise doesn't come in until there's a commitment, and it's not just him rounding off or whatever. So it also checks for them glancing round and trying to check if something else is there. That's one what if. The second one is that he gets to this one, but instead of he goes to touch it, but in going to touch it, he sees that one and goes, actually that one doesn't, and goes to that. Now he hasn't made a commitment to touch that, but what we do know, because it's visual and it's a sense stimulus, is we know that he's made a choice. So exactly the same thing applies. If he doesn't touch that and he comes past it, as now he's going up there, we know he's made a conscious decision to leave that one alone. That's equally bad. So he gets a chastisement again. If he comes, makes a decision to carry on to that one, chastisement again. If from the first chastisement he starts to come back here, then I would give him encouragement to pick that one up. Just to say, that's the one you should have got. So pick it up. So as he's coming back towards you, pick it up. Oh, okay, good. Picks it up, good lad. Now what are you going to do? Am I going to take it that way again? You're back to your original starting point. So that's the first sequence that deals with visual stimulus and sense stimulus together. The second sequence is the same thing, but your back dummy. Now all you do, when this is perfect every time, before we go to this, when this is perfect every time, all you do is squeeze those two till you find a point. Initially at that distance you might not have a problem, but it doesn't mean that your dog doesn't swap. It just means that the temptation isn't close enough. So all we'll do from that point is squeeze those two, and I would end up getting those two probably 2-3 yards apart. So I'd probably end up getting them there. What's that? Just under 3 yards apart. I wouldn't really go any closer than that. Some people do this nonsense. That's just a waste of time. That's about as close as I'd get. When I can guarantee that the dog's coming into that, picking the first dummy it sees, turns hard on its heel and runs back because he knows that's what I want him to do, then I change the system round again. The system I now change is I get rid of the visual stimulus on the back dummy. So the first one is that one. I wouldn't necessarily stand it up, probably just leave it on the ground. Then I would come to a point, you wouldn't have to come back to the full 15 metres now, 15 yards, whatever. You come back to a point where you know that the dog can smell that one but can't see it. So the scent on the day dictates that. So let's say it's that distance, make a big issue of both retrieves. So the dog's seen that one put down, and he's seen that one put down, but instead of being able to see both dummies, now I've changed the stimulus, because what I've taught him on the first exercise is that when you come in, don't ignore that first dummy when you know there's a back one. Now that exercise slightly changes. Now the exercise is, you know there's a second dummy, but you can't see it, but you can smell it. So now we're training specifically when there's a scent stimulus and not a visual stimulus. And when it's just a scent stimulus, it's a totally different exercise. Because on the first exercise, the dog knows the dummy is there, it can see it there, it hasn't actually got a problem. What that first exercise teaches is commit to the first thing you come to. When you change the exercise to this format now, yes, the dog knows both dummies were there, but it can't see the first one. And because it can't see it, it opens up that inquisitiveness in its head to then find where it is. So the distance on those is such that when he picks the front one, he can definitely smell the back one, but without seeing it. Now that triggers a totally different mindset in him. Because he can smell it but doesn't know where it is, it makes him inquisitive to know where it is. He might not be a swap as that result, but he will want to go and investigate where it is, satisfy himself with where it is, and then he may be happy to come away from it. So now when he comes in, same format, gets to the front dummy, picks it, exactly the same format as when it was 2 white dummies. If he makes a move to go that way, you chastise him again. And he should find the answer quicker because he learnt what the answer was when it was 2 white dummies. Okay? So that's all with the scent coming from the back dummy onto the front dummy.
And you wouldn't have the back dummy, sorry, despite the fact that that is less visible, it's still very visible to us because it's on a path. Would you do this part of the exercise with longer grass?
Probably, yeah.
So the back was a bit more...
But I would have to satisfy myself that the back one wasn't visual.
Fine.
But it was a scent stimulus.
Yeah.
So when you've done this, then I would revert. So now you've done it with visual. You can do it a variety of ways. The next step, which is actually the more practical situation, where you've got multiple birds in an area which you can't see. But when the dog picks one, you want it to be sure that it picks and returns. So this is when I would actually have the wind format the way we've got it now. So I'd have the wind coming now on her backs and not into her head, into her face. And again, this would be a more cover area. Let the dog know there's 2 retrieves there. Again, at a distance that you can wind one from the other. So this would be with a back wind. Now remember now, they're not as visual as they are on that track. When you send the dog up, he's got to overshoot and turn back to wind one. So it's more likely that he's going to wind the back one than he is the front one. And then he's got to come over that front one without changing it. That's like your tester, to see whether he comes, picks his head up, knowing that scent from other retrieves is pouring onto him, but he just keeps his head up and makes that commitment to run back through.
But it's okay to pick the second one.
You can't. The order doesn't matter.
Yeah.
On this format, when there's no visual stimulus and the wind direction's on your back, it doesn't matter. You can't control what order they pick it in. But this is your test to see whether they keep the head up and make that commitment to come back. Ultimately, what are you teaching them? You're teaching them we call it swapping, but in the dog's head, what you're teaching them is how you want them to respond when you get a retrieve in your mouth. Which is, get a retrieve in your mouth, lift your head up, run home as fast as you can. And that's what you get praise for. So I'm encouraging pace on the byproducts are, I get pace on my return as well. I get a very aggressive take generally. Not aggressive doesn't mean smash to pieces. Aggressive take is when the dog wins, it commits, comes in, bang, picks, and then it lifts its head and charges home. If it comes back with drive and desire to come back, it's less likely to get mixed up in other stuff. The dogs that again generally get mixed up on other stuff is if they're dawdling and they're distracted easily because they're not making that commitment to come back. Whereas we know dogs miss scent on things when they use pace. That's why in hunting exercises we get them to slow down. So if I want them to have less opportunity to wind and get mixed up in other things, encourage pace in that area because we know it works. Yeah? The distance that you set that, initially I would have it quite short. But as long as you get your timing right, you won't get a dog that ignores dummies. The only reason you'll get a dog ignoring dummies is if you preempt there being a problem and you put a chastisement in physically on the pickup. If the chastisement comes in with a gap after the pickup, then the dog won't misassociate it. Yeah?
Yep.
Is that all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My big issue is that he'll ignore the chastisement, won't he?
Sorry?
I said my